Spring cleaning doesn't have to mean spending money. While most people rush to buy new supplies, organizers, or decorations, the Amish do things differently. They use what they already have. No shopping trips, no credit cards, just smart, old-school know-how passed down through the years. When the cold fades and the sun starts to warm the windows, Amish families begin quiet, powerful rituals that reset their homes for the season ahead. No gadgets, no waste, just pure, practical genius that makes a home feel fresh again without spending a single dime. As winter lets go of its icy grip, the Amish don't just spring into action with dusters and brooms. They ease into the season with purpose. Every reset is thoughtful. Every ritual has roots. Instead of tossing things out or replacing what looks worn, they start by looking at what's already in the home. What can be fixed? What can be reused? What can be brought back to life without a trip to the store? That's where the beauty of their approach shines. The goal isn't just to clean, it's to reconnect the home to the natural rhythm of the season. Before anything else changes, before curtains are swapped or chairs are moved, they start with something most people overlook: the window frames. Those quiet wooden borders that stood through snow, ice, and wind. And now, it's time to give them new life. Not with chemicals or paint, but with a recipe as old as the stove ash itself. That's where the vinegar and ash paste comes in. It doesn't look fancy, it doesn't smell fancy, but it works like nothing else. After months of burning firewood to stay warm through winter, Amish families have plenty of fine, cooled wood ash tucked away near their stoves. Rather than toss it, they turn it into a natural cleanser, pairing it with plain white vinegar to make a gritty, old-fashioned paste. No labels, no barcodes, just two ingredients that work together like magic. The ash acts like a scrub, gently loosening dirt and buildup, while the vinegar eats away at the grime left behind by cold, closed-up months. Together they refresh the wood without stripping away its character. The grain rises, the surface glows, and best of all, the home starts to breathe again. I still remember the first time I saw this being done. I was visiting a friend who lived not far from an Amish community. His grandmother had grown up among them and kept many of their habits, even decades later. We were in her old farmhouse, and the windows looked like they hadn't been touched all winter. She didn't grab a bottle of spray cleaner. She walked over to the wood stove, scooped out a bit of ash, poured some vinegar into a small bowl, and started stirring with a butter knife. The smell hit me first, sharp, earthy, real. She dipped an old cloth into the mix and got to work. After just a few minutes, the wood around the window looked completely different. Not brand new, but alive again, like it had been woken up. This method isn't just for looks, it's functional. Over time, wooden window frames take in a lot: moisture from storms, dust from fields, grime from soot. Left alone, they start to look dull or even rot. But scrubbing them with vinegar and ash does more than clean. It restores. The ash paste gets into the grain of the wood and lifts the dirt without damaging the surface. It's gritty, but not too harsh. The vinegar breaks up stubborn bits and disinfects without leaving behind chemicals that might harm the finish. And once it's wiped away with a soft, reused cloth, often an old flour sack, the wood is left glowing. Not shiny like plastic, but rich with warmth and age, like it remembers something. The cloths matter too. Amish homes don't waste much, and even worn-out linens get one more life. Flour sack cloths are a favorite. Soft from years of use, but strong enough to scrub. And because they're made from natural fabric, they don't scratch the wood. Using them adds to the story of the home, a quiet echo of past meals, old baking days, and family mornings. Even the cloth used to wipe away the paste becomes part of the renewal. It's not about perfection, it's about care. Another time, I was visiting a roadside stand where an Amish woman sold soap, candles, and small jars of home cleaning pastes. She had one labeled vinegar and stove ash for spring window wake-up. I bought it out of curiosity, took it home, and tried it on the neglected windows in my mudroom. I didn't expect much, but after a good scrub and a careful wipe, the wood around the glass looked like it had shed its winter skin. The sunlight coming through felt warmer, like the house had sighed in relief. That's the thing about this method. It's not flashy. It doesn't come with packaging or promises, but it works. And more than that, it reconnects the person doing it to the space they live in. It makes cleaning feel like healing. The act of mixing two simple things, vinegar and ash, and using elbow grease instead of electricity changes how a home feels. It's quiet work, honest work, and it doesn't cost a thing. The process starts small. Just a bowl of ash, a splash of vinegar, and a rag. But the effect stretches far. Each scrubbed frame becomes a window not just to the outside world, but to the values of the people inside. Frugality, respect for materials, patience, a belief that something old can be made beautiful again with a little time and care. And as each frame is renewed, it sets the tone for everything else that follows in the spring reset. It's not about redecorating, it's about revealing, pulling back the layers of winter to find what's been waiting underneath. In a world where so many people buy more to feel refreshed, this is a reminder that less can be more. That something as humble as ash from last season's fire can breathe life back into the heart of a home. The Amish don't rush this part of the season. They don't blast music or tackle 10 chores at once. They move from window to window with care, letting each task speak for itself. And when they're done, the light comes through clearer, not because the glass is cleaner, but because the space around it has been honored. Spring doesn't start with new things. It starts with seeing the old things differently. A simple paste, a worn-out cloth, a bit of time and attention. That's all it takes to turn a quiet chore into a kind of blessing, for the window, for the wood, and for the person doing the work. And that's just the beginning of what Amish spring renewal looks like. Because once the frames are fresh and the light feels right, the rest of the house is ready to follow. Once the window frames have been scrubbed clean and the soft grain of the wood has been brought back to life, the light coming through the glass changes everything. The home starts to feel different, warmer, softer, more alive. But in Amish homes, cleaning the frames is just the beginning. Once the light has been invited in, it's time to work with it. The next quiet but powerful step in resetting the home for spring is paying attention to how that light moves through each room. Because light isn't just something to be seen, it's something to live with. And in Amish tradition, even sunlight becomes a tool for shaping the mood of a house. That's where linens come in. In most homes, curtains and quilts stay where they are until they wear out or fall out of style. But in Amish homes, linens shift with the seasons, especially in spring. As the angle of the sun begins to rise and stretch across the sky, Amish women make careful choices about what hangs in their windows and what drapes across their tables. It's not done for decoration or trend, it's done with purpose. Thick, dark fabrics that once helped hold in heat during the long, cold months are folded away and stored. In their place, light-colored linens take over. Cotton, muslin, and even worn-out flour sacks turned into airy curtains. These aren't luxury items. They're practical, simple, and made with care. The idea is to let the spring light do its job. In early spring, the sun sits at a lower angle in the morning and climbs higher by afternoon. The Amish pay close attention to which rooms get the most light and when. Curtains are chosen not just for color, but for weight and transparency. A sheer curtain in the kitchen can turn harsh midday light into a soft glow, brightening the room without the need to light a lantern. A quilt thrown over the back of a chair might reflect the sun into a darker corner, making the space feel warmer without using firewood or gas. Even a simple linen draped over a table can catch light and give the room a clean, peaceful feel. This process of rotating linens is slow and thoughtful. There's no rush to finish in one day. Each piece is taken down, shaken out, inspected, and cleaned. If a curtain is faded or frayed, it might be cut down and turned into a smaller cloth for the table or a shelf cover. If a quilt has worn through in one spot, it might be patched or turned to show its stronger side. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is replaced unless it absolutely needs to be. And every change makes the room feel just a little more awake, like the house itself is stretching after a long winter nap. This isn't just about saving energy, though that's part of it. By choosing lighter linens, the Amish reduce the need for artificial light during the day. Rooms stay cooler too, as the right fabric lets air pass while softening the sun's heat. But more than that, the shift in linens marks a new season. It signals a change not just in the home, but in the rhythm of daily life. Spring means longer days, early morning chores, and windows open to fresh air. The linens are a sign that it's time to move with the world again, It also brings the family together. Folding quilts, ironing curtains, choosing which tablecloth to use, it's all done by hand. There's no machine to make the decision, no app to plan the colors, just simple tasks done side by side. Young children might help by carrying folded cloths from one room to another. Older ones might learn how to check for sunlight angles by watching shadows on the floor. Everyone has a part to play, and everyone feels the shift. Even the storage of the heavy fabrics is done with care. They're not stuffed in boxes or forgotten in closets. They're wrapped in clean cloths, labeled, and put away in dry spaces where moths and moisture can't reach them. In some homes, these bundles carry stories: linens made by grandmothers, table runners used for birthdays, curtains sewn after weddings. Each piece has history, and each spring, when the boxes come out again, there's a sense of both continuity and renewal. One of the quiet truths of this tradition is how it connects people to the sun, not in a poetic sense, but in a real, everyday way. Watching how the light moves through the house becomes part of the daily routine. Knowing that the sun now hits the eastern wall earlier means it's time to change the kitchen curtain. Realizing that the back room stays bright until nearly evening means a different quilt can be used to catch the last of the light. This awareness is passed down through observation, not instruction. It becomes second nature. Over time, the house seems to adjust itself. The linens help the home respond to the sun instead of resisting it. When the light is soft, it's allowed to shine. When it's harsh, it's filtered. And when it's fading, it's reflected. This kind of relationship with the natural world can't be bought. It's felt, built through seasons of noticing, and practiced through the simple act of folding, choosing, and hanging cloth. So, while the rest of the world might be shopping for new spring looks or flipping through catalogs, the Amish are already working with what they have. A well-placed curtain, a reused quilt, a light cloth covering a table once shadowed. These changes don't shout for attention, but they change the mood of a room completely, and they cost nothing. Spring isn't just outside, it's inside the home too. It's in the way sunlight falls through the fabric, in the way air moves through a room newly cleared of heaviness, and in the quiet choices made to honor that shift. The Amish don't just decorate for spring, they live it, through fabric, through light, and through the simple beauty of knowing when to put something away and when to let it shine. Once the linens are switched out and the spring light is flowing freely through every room, something else begins to stand out: the floors. After months of muddy boots, wood ashes, and indoor traffic during the cold season, the floorboards often carry the weight of winter more than anything else. And in Amish homes, that doesn't go unnoticed. While many people might reach for chemical cleaners or artificial floor sprays, the Amish reach for something already waiting in their cupboards: leftover soap from the winter's hard work. It's not just about scrubbing, it's about bringing the scent and feel of the season into the floor itself, one gentle wipe at a time. This is where the lye soap comes in. All winter long, Amish families render soap from saved animal fat, wood ash, and water. It's a slow process done in batches and often results in leftover scraps, small pieces that are too small to hold but too valuable to waste. These scraps don't go in the trash. They're saved for spring cleaning. When the time comes, they're dissolved in buckets of warm water to create a soft, soapy solution that's perfect for cleaning floors. There's nothing fancy about it. No bubbles. No artificial perfumes. Just the raw, honest work of natural ingredients doing what they were made to do. Once mixed, the soap water is used with old cloth rags, often cut from worn-out clothing or linens too thin to mend. These rags soak up the warm soap, get wrung out by hand, and are pushed across the floor with quiet intention. Every stroke of the cloth lifts away layers of dust, grit, and wear from the long winter months. But this isn't just about removing dirt. It's about bringing something back. The soap doesn't just clean the floor, it gives it life. The natural fats in the lye soap nourish the wood, giving it a slight sheen without any wax or polish. It doesn't leave a slippery surface. It leaves behind a feeling of warmth, of age made fresh again. What makes this even more special is the scent. Amish families often add dried herbs to their soap batches. Mint from the summer garden, lavender hung to dry in the barn, pine needles gathered during late autumn. These additions aren't just for show. They infuse the soap with soft, earthy smells that are only noticeable once the floor starts to dry. As the water evaporates, the room begins to take on the gentle scent of spring. It's not overwhelming. It doesn't hit you when you walk in the door. It builds slowly, curling up from the boards and settling into the corners of the room. Over time, it soaks into the grain of the wood, creating a scent that isn't just in the air. It's part of the house. This process isn't rushed. It's done room by room, board by board, with care. There are no machines to speed it up, no tools to cut corners, just hands, cloths, and soap. Each room cleaned this way feels different afterward. Brighter, yes, but also calmer. The scent stays. The floor feels smoother underfoot. And the home begins to carry the subtle message that winter is truly gone. There's also a quiet pride in using what's already there. That soap was made by hand, not bought. The herbs were gathered from the family's own land. The rags were sewn from the past, given a new purpose in the present. And all of it works together to clean without waste. It doesn't just save money. It honors the effort already put in during colder months. Every scrub becomes part of a cycle. What was once just fat and ash becomes the tool to start again. Even the choice of water matters. In some homes, rainwater collected in barrels is used for this cleaning. It's softer than tap water and helps the soap dissolve more evenly. Warmed slightly on the stove, it's poured into buckets, ready for use. The whole process is slow but steady, and that's part of its strength. There's no rush to finish. There's just the rhythm of cloth against wood and the quiet sense that with each pass, the house is waking up. This kind of cleaning isn't only about hygiene, it's about atmosphere. In Amish homes, every scent carries meaning. Smoke means warmth, bread means family, and soap means new beginnings. When that first spring batch of soap-scented water is wrung out and spread across the floor, it marks a moment, a turning point. The season is shifting, and the home is ready to shift with it. Over time, these soap-scented floorboards hold more than just fragrance. They hold memory. The wood absorbs the past even as it's being cleaned. It becomes a record of the care put into it. A floor treated like this, year after year, doesn't just last longer, it becomes more beautiful with age. The grain darkens in places, the knots smooth over, and the scent of mint or lavender becomes a quiet thread through the seasons, rising again each time the soap touches the surface. In homes filled with bare feet, heavy boots, and daily chores, the floor is more than just a surface. It's part of the family's story. And by using handmade lye soap to clean and nourish it, the Amish bring that story to life each spring. No chemicals, no gloss, just water, soap, cloth, and care. And the result is something no store-bought cleaner can offer. A floor that smells like the land, feels like tradition, and speaks softly of renewal with every step. Once the floors are wiped clean and the soft scent of lye soap settles into the wood, the house begins to hum with quiet energy. The windows let in more light, the linens brighten the rooms, and the air itself feels fresher. But the Amish don't stop there. With the home now physically reset, they turn their attention to something even more alive: growth. Not outside in the cold soil just yet, but right inside the heart of the home. And it begins not with seeds, but with scraps. The same pieces most people toss away become the foundation for the next spring ritual, bringing food to life again, right on the windowsill. In early spring, when the earth is still too chilly to dig, Amish kitchens come alive with small wooden trays of soil. These aren't for decoration. They're working gardens in miniature. Inside them are the ends of carrots, the bottoms of celery stalks, trimmed off onion bulbs, and even sprouting garlic cloves. Leftover pieces that once seemed useless are placed gently into the soil, lined up in tidy rows and tucked into compost saved from the past year. There's no waste here. No part of the plant is forgotten. Instead, it's given another chance to grow, quietly, steadily, right where meals are made and shared. These regrowth trays do more than just produce food. They turn the kitchen into a living space in every sense. Bright green shoots rise up as the light pours in. Leaves unfurl toward the window pane. Day by day, the kitchen feels more like a greenhouse. The air becomes fresher. The colors become brighter. And the home itself feels like it's breathing. It's a slow kind of beauty, simple, useful, and full of life. The trays themselves are often handmade, not store-bought plastic or metal, but shallow boxes crafted from leftover wood scraps or salvaged drawers. Amish families line them with newspaper or cloth to keep the soil from spilling and then fill them with compost they've made through the winter. Scraps of peelings, coffee grounds, and cooled ashes all broken down into rich, dark earth. It's the kind of soil that holds warmth, moisture, and nutrients, giving the scraps the best chance to root again. And when they do, it feels like a small miracle, something once thrown away now offering new life. These trays are more than just practical. They serve as a reminder that growth doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Even when the outdoor ground is frozen, the kitchen stays warm. Even when the garden isn't ready, the windowsill is. And while the harvest might be small, a few sprigs of green onions, a handful of celery leaves, or some young carrot greens, it adds more than food. It adds hope. A reminder that spring is coming and that something fresh can grow from what was once left behind. This practice also teaches patience. Regrowth isn't fast. It can take days or weeks for the first signs to appear. But that waiting becomes part of the rhythm. It invites people to check the trays each morning, to water gently, to notice the changes that come with each passing day. And because it's done by hand, no machines, no lights, no fertilizers, it brings attention back to the basics. Water, soil, sunlight, time. Even young children in Amish homes help with this. They learn which scraps can grow again and how to place them in the soil. They watch as roots form and green shoots push through. It becomes a kind of quiet classroom, one that doesn't need desks or books, just trays, scraps, and care. And by the time planting season begins outside, they've already learned how to coax life from leftovers. There's also the simple fact that this practice saves money. Herbs and greens don't need to be bought when they're growing right in the kitchen. A bit of fresh flavor is always close at hand. Whether it's chives for a stew, celery leaves for a salad, or garlic shoots for seasoning, the trays offer more than beauty. They offer usefulness. The harvest may be small, but it's steady. And when done with care, it keeps giving. More than that, these trays reduce waste. Instead of tossing scraps into a bin, they're planted. Instead of composting everything, some pieces get a second life first. It's a way of honoring the full value of food. Not just what's eaten, but what's left behind. Every root that regrows is a quiet form of respect. Respect for the earth. Respect for the home. And respect for the work that brought the food there in the first place. Over time, the windowsill becomes something to gather around. Not for decoration, but for purpose. A line of trays, a row of green, a shared effort. The sunlight becomes more than warmth. It becomes fuel for life. And the kitchen becomes more than a place to cook. It becomes a space where spring begins, slowly and steadily, one leaf at a time. As the days grow longer and the soil outside begins to soften, these regrowth trays prepare the family for the season ahead. Some of the scraps might be planted outdoors once they've grown strong enough. Others will be harvested right from the window and used in everyday meals. Either way, the cycle continues. Nothing is wasted. Everything is used. And the lessons of growth carry on into the garden. In Amish homes, the kitchen is often the center of activity. And with these small trays, it becomes the first place where spring truly shows itself. Not in grand changes, but in little shoots of green rising from the past. A home doesn't need to buy new things to feel renewed. Sometimes, all it needs is a few scraps, a bit of soil, and the patience to let life begin again. As the first green shoots rise from windowsill trays and the kitchen begins to feel alive with new growth, the Amish turn their attention to the more subtle shifts of the season. Spring may bring warmth, but it doesn't always arrive in full. Cold breezes still find their way in through small cracks beneath doors and around window frames. While modern homes might rely on store-bought insulation or plastic weatherproofing, the Amish have a gentler, handmade solution, one that carries both function and memory. This is where quilted draft catchers come into the picture, soft, useful, and stitched from the fabric of past seasons. In Amish households, nothing is thrown away lightly. Clothing that's too worn to patch, too thin to reuse, or too faded to wear isn't discarded. It's saved, Bonnet linings, apron ties, and even trousers with frayed hems are gathered and sorted by material and color. These scraps may no longer serve the body, but they can still serve the home. They are cut, stitched, and pieced together into long, narrow tubes, soft cylinders that are then filled with dry beans, rice, or sawdust. These become the draft catchers, resting quietly at the base of exterior doors, along window ledges, and in spots where chilly air still slips through. These draft catchers are more than just practical. They are reminders. Each one is a blend of fabric that once walked fields, stirred soup, rocked babies, or hung in the breeze on a wash line. Now, sewn together with simple thread, they stand guard against the leftover cold. They don't make noise. They don't light up. But they do their job well. And each time one is placed by a door or window, it continues to serve the household, just in a quieter way than before. The process of making them is often done in the weeks leading up to spring. As old clothes are sorted and baskets of scraps are reviewed, choices are made. Softer fabrics are best for the outer layer, ones that bend easily and feel good to the touch. Stronger pieces might line the inside to help hold the shape. Sometimes, if there's enough material, families add quilt-style patterns, turning the catchers into stitched mosaics that carry bits of family history. Even the filler matters. Dry beans give weight and mold to the edges. Sawdust creates a light, flexible barrier. Rice adds firmness. Whatever is on hand is used. Once filled and sewn shut, the draft catchers are shaken into place along the floor. They hug the edges of doorways and the bottoms of frames, blocking out that last bit of winter that lingers even when the calendar says it's spring. There's no tape, no glue, no screws, just fabric and weight. And it works. The temperature inside stays steadier, the warmth stays where it belongs, and the breeze stays out. It's not just about saving heat, it's about extending care. These handmade tools say something without words. They say the house matters, the people in it matter, and the work put into protecting it doesn't have to cost money. It just has to cost attention. Attention to what's already in the home, attention to the fabric that's already given its first life, and attention to the little spaces where change happens, like the line between warm and cold, inside and out. Even the placement of these draft catchers is thoughtful. They're not thrown down. They're tucked, shaped, and sometimes pressed gently into corners where floor meets frame. They bend around uneven boards. They curve into doorways that don't quite close all the way. And once in place, they stay still, silent protectors that do their job without being noticed. But their presence is felt in the steady air, the lack of chill, the comfort of knowing the home is sealed tight in a natural, homemade way. Over time, some may wear out. The fabric thins, the filler shifts. But even then, they're not tossed out without thought. Often the outer shell is opened up, the filling saved, and the fabric used one more time in smaller projects, maybe a patch, a toy, or a lining. Nothing is wasted, not even the scraps of the scraps. And in this way, the draft catcher lives many lives, always finding a way to be useful, always finding a way to stay connected to the household. What may look like a simple tube of cloth from a distance is actually a quiet symbol of resilience. It stands for reuse, for care, for the belief that something old can still be strong. And when several of these are placed throughout the home, they become part of the rhythm of spring, like open windows, soft light, and warm bread. They blend in. They do not ask for praise, but they do their part in helping the home transition from one season to the next. In a world full of quick fixes and throwaway products, the Amish method of creating quilted draft catchers stands out, not because it's flashy, but because it isn't. It's steady, it's handmade, and it's built from what's already been lived in and loved. Each one adds warmth, not just by blocking cold, but by reminding those in the home that every thread, every piece, every worn-out scrap still has something left to give. So as the house continues its quiet transformation into spring, with sunlight on the walls, fresh greens on the windowsill, and soap-scented floors underfoot, the draft catchers rest in their places, silent, stitched, and sure. Another gentle step in the reset of the home, another thread in the fabric of a season that celebrates second chances. With quilted draft catchers now resting against door frames and under windows, quietly guarding the home from spring's lingering chill, the work of resetting continues. But it doesn't always mean adding something new. Sometimes it means moving what's already there. In Amish homes, early spring is not just a time for cleaning and mending, it's also a time for realignment, not just in the mind or the spirit, but in the very layout of the home. As the wind shifts direction and sunlight begins to pour through the windows at different angles, the placement of furniture becomes something to think about with care. For many, furniture stays in the same spot all year long. But for the Amish, the arrangement of a room isn't fixed. It flows with the seasons. In spring, that flow begins with watching the light. As the days grow longer and the sun climbs higher, shadows change. The way light enters a room shifts. What was once a dim corner in winter might become the brightest spot in the house by mid-March. The Amish pay attention to this. They know where the morning light touches first and where the evening warmth lingers longest. And they move their furniture to match. Chairs that were once tucked near the stove may now be pulled closer to a sunlit window. A rocking chair used for sewing or reading might be placed where sunlight stretches across the floor for the longest part of the day. This simple act not only welcomes light, it encourages use. Instead of switching on a lamp, someone can sit in natural brightness. Instead of lighting a fire to warm up, they can soak in the sun. It's a way to work with nature, not against it. Airflow matters just as much. As the outside temperature changes and breezes begin to stir, Amish families open their windows to let the wind speak. They notice which rooms catch the breeze and which stay still. They listen to the creak of floorboards and feel where the air moves naturally. Then they rearrange. Tables might be moved to avoid wind pushing against papers or dishes. Beds might be turned or shifted to avoid nighttime drafts. Sofas might be pulled back from corners where cold air still lingers. It's not about design or style. It's about comfort, health, and balance. This rearrangement is quiet work. There's no rush, no big planning. It begins with observation. The family notices which parts of the house feel warmer, where the breeze passes gently, where the light stays soft. And then, piece by piece, the home is adjusted. Not drastically, just enough to make the space breathe a little easier, just enough to welcome in the season. Even smaller items are moved with intention. A table used for letter writing might be placed where light makes it easier to see. A bench might be shifted to catch a bit of sun during afternoon rest. A child's cradle might be turned so it's no longer in the draft of an early spring wind. Nothing is random. Everything is chosen. Every movement has a reason. In some homes, this ritual even marks the shift from winter to spring. Just as sure as the clocks change or the seeds are sorted, the furniture moves. And when it does, the home feels new. Not because anything was bought, but because everything has been seen again with fresh eyes. It's a way of saying, the season has changed, and we are changing with it. This practice also supports the structure of the house itself. By following where light and air move naturally, the furniture helps guide those elements through the home. It helps distribute warmth without extra fuel. It helps air circulate without fans. It's a kind of natural architecture where the layout of the home changes to match the weather outside. And over time, it creates a living space that isn't just filled with things. It's alive in how it responds. For the Amish, this isn't a chore. It's a rhythm. It's part of the same cycle that brings fresh soap to the floors, compost to the windowsills, and clean cloth to the windows. It's part of treating the home not just as shelter, but as a partner in daily life. A partner that changes with the wind, listens to the light, and welcomes in the new season with open spaces and open windows. Even the smallest change can make a big difference. Moving a chair 3 feet to the left might mean more warmth in the morning. Turning a table might reduce glare during breakfast. Shifting a rug might make the floor feel warmer. And in homes where every bit of comfort is earned through effort and care, those changes are meaningful. They make life easier. They make the home feel more in tune with what's happening outside. This habit also teaches awareness. It shows the younger generation how to live with the land, not just on it. It teaches that houses, like people, can shift with the seasons. And it passes on the quiet knowledge that comfort doesn't always come from what you have. It often comes from how you use what's already there. So as the windows open wider and the light spills in more freely, the home itself shifts with the season. It doesn't fight the change. It moves with it. One chair, one bed, one small table at a time. And in that quiet rearrangement, spring arrives, not just outside, but in the very way the home feels and lives. Once the furniture has been shifted and the home realigned with spring's natural light and air, the inside starts to feel different, more open, more balanced. But even after the house has been cleaned, rearranged, and refreshed, there can still be something quiet lingering in the air, something left over from the stillness of winter. It's not dust or cold, it's something softer, something felt more than seen. The Amish understand this feeling well, and to release it, they turn to something just as quiet: rainwater. In early spring, when the first real rains begin to fall, some Amish households collect it, not in barrels for the garden, but in bowls for the house. Fresh rainwater, clean and cool, is brought inside in shallow dishes and placed on windowsills, near wood stoves, or in quiet corners of the home. It's not a decoration. It's a simple act of renewal, a way to invite the season in. As the water slowly evaporates, it brings with it more than moisture. It draws out the heavy air left behind by winter. It clears what's stale and makes space for what's new. These bowls are usually made of ceramic, metal, or thick glass, materials that hold the coolness of the water. They're not big. They don't need to be. Just wide enough to let the surface breathe. Some families even choose bowls that have been passed down or used for other purposes in the past. Once filled, they are set in still parts of the house where the air feels dry or thick. Over the next few days, the water gently disappears into the air and the room begins to shift. There's no scent, no steam, no visible change. But something moves. The air becomes softer. Breathing becomes easier. It's a kind of indoor reset, one that doesn't require scrubbing or rearranging, just presence. The bowls don't shout for attention. Most visitors wouldn't even notice them unless told, but their effect is felt in the calmness they leave behind. The Amish believe that water from the first spring rains carries a kind of cleansing power, not in a mystical way, but in a natural one. It hasn't touched city pipes or indoor tanks. It's pure, untouched, straight from the sky. Bringing it into the house is like bringing in a small piece of the outside world, a piece that hasn't been changed by human hands, and that makes it different from any other water used during the rest of the year. As the rainwater sits in these bowls, it does more than humidify. It becomes a silent part of the home. It joins the light coming through the curtains, the breeze flowing through open windows, the scent of herbs growing in windowsills. It becomes part of the atmosphere, quietly supporting the transition from one season to the next. Some families choose to place more than one bowl, one in the main room, another in the kitchen, maybe one near a stove that has dried the air all winter long. Each bowl takes in the room around it and gives something back, not loudly, not quickly, but gently and steadily. By the time the water is gone, the house feels less tight, less closed off, like it has exhaled. There is something respectful in this act. Instead of forcing the home to change with machines or strong scents, the Amish invite the home to release what it's holding. The rainwater does the work slowly. It doesn't mask. It doesn't rush. It simply allows. And in that allowance, a kind of peace returns. Even the process of collecting the water is mindful. A pan is set outside, usually away from the roof, to catch clean drops as they fall. Once the rain has passed, the water is brought in carefully. It's not boiled or filtered. It's used just as it came. This attention to detail, choosing the right rain, the right container, the right spot, adds to the meaning behind the ritual. It turns a simple bowl of water into a quiet welcome for spring. This practice is also about rhythm. Just as the window frames are scrubbed, the linens rotated and the furniture realigned, the rainwater bowls come out year after year. Not always on the same day, but always when the time feels right. When the first good rain comes, when the air needs softening, when the rooms feel ready. It's another part of the seasonal reset woven into the larger fabric of home care. There's also a lesson here about patience. The effects of the bowl aren't instant. There's no button to push, no scent to fill the air. It takes time. But in that time, something real happens. The air shifts. The home breathes. And the people inside notice, not with their eyes, but with how they feel. The dryness fades. The heaviness lifts. And what remains is a quiet sense that the home has been touched by something gentle and true. So while others might light candles or spray fresheners to bring a sense of spring indoors, the Amish trust something simpler, a bowl of water, a breeze, a bit of time. No cost, no waste. Just the belief that nature knows how to help a home reset, if given the space to do so. And when the bowl is finally empty, it isn't refilled with just any water. It's cleaned, dried, and set aside, waiting for the next rain, the next shift, the next moment when the home needs another breath of fresh air. Until then, the memory of its presence lingers in the softness it left behind. As spring continues to unfold, the house carries that softness forward. Through every open window, every quiet corner, every step on a floor that no longer holds the weight of winter. And in that space, the season blooms, not just outside, but deep within the home itself. After the soft presence of rainwater has lifted the heaviness from the air and refreshed the home's energy, the next step in this quiet spring reset moves outside. With the inside now calm, warm, and realigned with the season, attention turns to something that has quietly collected dust and memories all winter long: the rugs. In Amish homes, rugs and floor runners are not just for comfort or decoration. They catch the weight of daily life. They hold the footprints of snow boots, the soot from fireplaces, and the crumbs of family meals. And when spring arrives, it's time to clean them, not with machines, but with motion, rhythm, and fresh air. Rather than using vacuums or electrical sweepers, Amish women take their rugs outside to beat them by hand. But like everything else in their homes, this task is not done carelessly. It's done with thought and awareness. Not every outdoor spot is treated the same. Rugs are not dragged onto grass or shaken near blooming plants. That might lift the winter dust, but it can also reintroduce pollen and spring allergens into the fabric. Instead, the rugs are brought to stone surfaces, like packed earth paths, slate slabs, or flat rocks near the barn. These areas are firm, clean, and low in pollen. They provide the best foundation for removing dirt without picking up more. The process is simple, but strong. A rug is hung over a wooden beam, fence rail, or clothesline. Sometimes it's laid flat across a large rock or piece of split wood. Then, with a sturdy stick or woven beater, the surface is struck again and again. Each strike releases a cloud of dust into the spring air. Bits of hay, crumbs, soot, and thread lift off and scatter into the wind. What was trapped through the cold months is finally set free. It's not just a cleaning, it's a release. The act itself is rhythmic. There's a steady sound as the beater hits the fabric. A pulse, a beat. The motion builds warmth in the arms and wakes up muscles that may have been still through winter. It's physical work, but it carries a reward that goes beyond clean rugs. It gets the blood moving, it sharpens focus, it connects the person to the task in a way that no machine can match. And when the dust finally stops rising, what's left behind is a rug that smells like the outdoors, feels light underfoot, and holds no memory of winter's weight. Some households use this opportunity to check the rugs for wear. Edges are inspected, frays are snipped. If a piece needs mending, it's noted and brought back inside for stitching. But many are simply returned to the home, refreshed. They are rolled neatly, shaken one last time, and placed back on the floor where they belong. With the draft catchers in place and the soap-washed boards beneath, these clean rugs help complete the home's spring layer, soft, useful, and ready. This kind of rug beating is often done during the early part of the day when the air is still cool and dry. It prevents moisture from settling back into the fibers and keeps pollen levels low. It's also a time when wind is most helpful, carrying away what's been released. Nothing is rushed. Each rug gets its turn. The beater is lifted, the dust flies, and the home continues its transformation one step at a time. There's something else this practice avoids: noise. Without machines humming or fans blowing, the task is peaceful. The only sounds are the thump of cloth, the breeze, and the occasional call of birds waking up to the season. It becomes a form of quiet work that allows the mind to settle even as the body is active. And like many Amish practices, it's about doing a simple thing well, with focus and care. The rugs themselves carry a history. Some are hand-woven, others are pieced from old fabrics. They're made to last, and so they are treated with respect. Cleaning them by hand helps them endure. It strengthens the connection between the people who walk on them and the work that went into making them. And when they're cleaned on stone, it protects them not just from dust, but from the invisible burden of spring allergens that can fill the air. This method also protects the rest of the home. Bringing in a rug that's been shaken over grass can add new pollen to the house, undoing the quiet efforts made to clear the air. But rugs beaten on stone come back inside light and clean, ready to hold spring in a gentler way. They don't stir up sneezes, they don't bring in more than they took out. And for those sensitive to the change in seasons, that care makes all the difference. As the rugs are returned, the rooms feel finished. The light from the windows dances on the clean surfaces. The air, moistened by rainwater bowls and cleared by open windows, feels lighter. And now, the floors carry rugs that have been freed from the weight of months past. Together, it all begins to add up. Not in one big moment, but in many small ones. Each step taken on a freshly beaten rug feels quieter, softer, cleaner. And it didn't take electricity, it didn't take tools, it only took time, patience, and a place where the earth is solid and the breeze is strong. This is how the Amish bring spring into the home, not by forcing it in, but by letting go of what no longer serves. Dust, pollen, stillness, and by using what nature offers, stone, wind, and sunlight, to help the home breathe again. With this, the reset deepens. The house not only looks ready for spring, it feels ready. And the work continues, step by step, in rhythm with the season. Spring doesn't have to come with a price tag. Not when the wisdom of simplicity still lives strong in places like Amish country. What may look like small, quiet chores, rubbing window frames with ash and vinegar, rearranging furniture to chase the sun, or soaking rugs in the strength of clean stone, are actually powerful rituals that reset more than just the house. They reset the energy, the air, the rhythm of daily life. These practices aren't about decorating, they're about restoring. Each one carries the heartbeat of a home that knows how to listen to the season instead of fighting it. From windowsills blooming with kitchen scraps to floors washed with soap made by hand, nothing is wasted and everything has purpose. Even a worn-out apron becomes a draft catcher. Even the first spring rain becomes a breath of fresh air inside. The Amish don't rely on new products to refresh their space. They rely on new attention to old things. That's what makes their way so powerful and so lasting. If these humble spring hacks sparked an idea or reminded you that your home has its own quiet way of speaking, drop a comment below. Share how you plan to welcome the season without spending a dime. And if you want more timeless wisdom like this to meet you where you are, make sure to hit subscribe. We've got more old school secrets waiting just around the corner.